My name is Jolyon Sharpe. I'm project lead for the Making Space for Sand project. We call it Making Space for Sand. Its full title is Building Community Resilience on a Dynamic Coast by Making Space for Sand, which doesn't roll off the tongue quite so well, hence we call it Making Space for Sand. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce you to what Making Space for Sand is and then talk a little bit about change and why this climate jury is so important when we consider what change could look like. So what is Making Space for Sand? The aims of the project is to try and have a slightly more sustainable use of the coastal fringe. That can't just consider the environment, it's got to consider the people that use that environment as well. So the project covers the length and breadth. So I stand back here so you can see the length and breadth of Cornwall. So most southeasterly location is Seton and the most northeasterly location is Crooklet. So we're initially going to collect lots of data. So dunes, are they healthy? Are they bioresilient? Are they in a good, healthy condition? And what do we know about coastal processes? We've got some great modelling we've just seen through the data that EA have collected, but there's more data we can collect on that so we can better understand what coastal change will look like. So we're going to be collecting lots of data, engaging with communities, and where possible, delivering some adaptation. And again, that's where you guys really come into play, in my opinion. So yeah, the project is part of a wider funding programme. I think it's very important to put that into place. It's recognised by national government that we need to adapt, and that's why they introduced something called the Flood and Coastal Resilience Innovation Programme. It's £250 million spread amongst 25 projects across the UK looking at how we deal with flood risk and coastal erosion changes. We're one of 25 projects and we've secured £6 million to spend until 2027. Sounds like an awful lot of money, but when you divide it by the number of years of the project and the number of locations, it means we can't deliver something everywhere. So we're going to be delivering where possible, where we've got landowners and communities we want to work with.
Just quick, what was it? What you said? Something flood?
Sorry, the Flood and Coastal Resilience Innovation Programme. It's called FCRIP, but flooding. Yes, if you look online, Flood and Coastal Resilience Innovation Programme. So who is it? Well, it's Cornwall Council. We're hosting the project here. We're working with a range of partners. The South West Coastal Monitoring collect all sorts of information on coastal change. So it's worth checking out their website if you get a chance. All of their information is open source, so you can look at all of the data they've collected on coastal change. Working with a team at Plymouth University of Plymouth. Again, they're collecting data for us, but generating from that some really interesting models so we can better understand what coastal change will look like. Again, working with Cornwall Wildlife Trust, who will be collecting lots of ecological data and developing beach management plans from that data, working with communities. And importantly, we're working with the Cornwall Community Flood Forum, who predominantly focus now on working with communities that are flooded, but also using that skill set that we can work with communities that are vulnerable to coastal change. So without further ado, I've just got loads of really interesting images of change now. So lots of historical maps, lots of images of the coastline in this area over time. And I think the purpose of doing this is to understand that change is sometimes something we see abruptly. We had some really big storms in 2013-14, and we saw some big changes on our coastline, about 10 metres of erosion in some locations. It was sudden, it was abrupt, we all saw it. However, sometimes it's really gradual, and actually by looking at historical images, you can see that change sometimes happens so small amount that you can't actually notice it. But anyway, I think it's really useful looking at historical images because by looking back, sometimes you can help build forward, and you can sometimes understand why communities have developed where they are. So I think Crackington, I'll have to whistle through these very quickly. Crackington Haven, there's a community, steep-sided valley, very little places to inhabit there at the bottom, and you can see here on a modern map, you've got very little development in that area, understandably. Go to Widmouth Bay, so you can see here a map of Widmouth Bay, lots of fields behind it if you go to a modern day map. I must say the quality of the modern day maps aren't as good as the historical ones, that's just my opinion, but you can see here you've got a whole community now there, set back a little bit from the coastline, but still some very low-lying, vulnerable areas. Similar for Bude areas, you can see here, Summerleys Beach, and you've got the Bude Canal here and the River Neat. And if you look at a map there, you can see that the town has very much developed around this location. I think probably the most interesting for me is looking at the tiny community of Flexbury. You can see here set back somewhat from the coastline, sorry for you guys here at the edge. And if we look at this image, you can see that it's absolutely developed around that. The golf course very much creating that divide. But you can see that we've had a huge amount of development Again, I'm looking at some historical images now. I don't have very long. So again, Crackington Haven, you can see exactly why there hasn't been a huge amount of development in the area with the steep-sided cliffs. I'm running out of time very quickly. So there you go. From both sides, you can see one thing I love about this is the fact that the tennis courts have been a long enduring feature. I love it. Widmouth Bay, I quite like these ones. You've got all the boulders here. I think those are the tank traps that would have been there from World War II. We've got Trelawney Hotel. Again, you can see that there's not much in the way of development there, and I love the fact you can still see a toilet block there. That's a very old toilet block. And again, just from another angle, you can see you've got the beach huts there. And I think here, Salt House, you can see a track in front of Salt House in that image. That track doesn't exist now, so you can see that there has been change. Again, the tank traps, again, you can see you've got a very undefended frontage there. Almost there, almost there. I'll skip that one. So here's a really interesting one of some of these. It's got some now and thens just to show you here. So it's a historical picture of the beach and of the Dew Downs. And if we just put that one overlay there, you can see that what we've had is a dune system built up significantly there. The reason for that largely, if you just go back quickly, is I think we had a huge amount of sediment removed from the beach at one point when it was taken inland via the canal. That ended in 1891, I believe. So you can see here a tiny bit of dune that's developed there by 1931, and it's developed further if you look again at these images. So you can see that the industrial past of Bude has had a massive impact on how it's shaped now. So again, here's another one of Summerlees and the lovely beach tents and huts, and you can see now how it's developed. Again, this is the Crooklets, the car park area, and you can see how that's changed. And I think probably the most significant change we can see here is at Crooklets. Again, the positioning isn't perfect, but you can see that we've got a very developed front that's been created at this particular location. So I think this kind of links on to the final message for you guys, really. There is going to be a need to adapt. It's going to need to be a transitional adaptation. Building up a wall won't necessarily always be the answer, and it doesn't support the outcome of the making space of the shoreline management plan. And I think it's really important that we do something now. We make these decisions now about how things look in the future. So I've got to throw my Star Wars slide in there because I do love it. There does come a time when taking the risk of doing nothing becomes the greatest risk of all. Talking about the rebels, of course, in Andor, but the same thing stands true now, really. There is a risk if we do nothing, the changes we could see will be significant in Bude. And there's an opportunity, I think, through the jury to help inform the direction of travel, how it could look with community buy-in. And actually it's essential. What we want to be doing is working collaboratively with the landowners as a community and developing a way forward that we can all accept, that works for all of us, works for the environment, it works for the community, and it works for society. So thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.